Overnight, we sailed from Flom, Norway to Lerwick Harbor in the Shetland Islands. We had a beautiful view of Shetland Island and the area around Lerwick. We knew our visit to Lerwick, Scotland in the Shetland Islands would require the ship to use its tenders to get us to shore, but we didn't count on the weather not cooperating. We received a message from the captain early this morning telling us that the winds were unfavorable at this time to using the tenders. We know that one of the greatest concerns a captain has is putting some or all of his passengers ashore and not being able to get them back on board. At this time, we were just going to drop anchor offshore and monitor the weather. On a day at sea, or in this case, a day when we are restricted to the ship, you have to leave your stateroom sometime in the morning so your cabin steward can refresh it. We went down to the piazza area to kill some time. Janice did some shopping while we were at the piazza. We decided to take advantage of our forced time on the ship to get some exercise, so we went walking on deck 7. Walking around the ship gave us another perspective on Shetland Island, the island closest to us and the one we wanted to visit. We had a different view of the area around Lerwick. One point of interest that stood out was Lerwick Cemetery. We wondered how old some of the graves in this cemetery were. We spent most of the afternoon waiting for a break in the weather, but it was not to be. Our captain then came on the speakers and told us we were going to pull up anchor and begin sailing toward Iceland. On the way away from Lerwick, we got a good view of Bressay Lighthouse Accommodation, a historic lighthouse that has been converted to an accommodation for tourists. That evening at dinner, a photographer came by our table and took our pictures. I thought Janice's picture was particularly good and I wanted it. Janice insisted that if I bought her picture, I had to buy mine also. So we have both pictures. We were now on our way to Akureyri, Iceland. This was when the cruise became a challenge for me. During the early morning hours of Sunday, September the 11th, I woke up with chills. I didn't have any other symptoms. By morning, my chills were gone, but since this was a day at sea, I spent most of the day in our stateroom, and much of the time I was in bed. That night, things got worse. We were now sailing across the North Atlantic, and the seas were rough. We could really feel it up in our stateroom on deck 14. I got up with a bad case of chills and went into the bathroom. And while in there, with the strong movement of the ship, I lost my balance and managed to get down in the small bathroom with my head in the shower. I couldn't get up, no matter how hard I tried. After a while, Janice came to check on me, but she couldn't help me up either, so I eventually agreed for her to call the medical section for help. A nurse came right up from deck 4 with a wheelchair and managed to help me up, for which I was very appreciative. They took me down to the ship hospital on deck 4 and gave me a very thorough examination. It was now 1 a.m. on Monday, September the 12th. On this visit, the doctor that I saw, a lady from South Africa, couldn't come up with a diagnosis except to say that I had an infection and was dehydrated. As a precaution, she put me on 2 antibiotics. They told me not to go on our planned excursion in Akureyri and to return to the ship hospital in 8 hours. When we woke up, we were docked at Akureyri. It was very cold outside. From our balcony, we were looking south, but we couldn't see too much due to the fog. An orderly came with a wheelchair and took me back down to the ship hospital at the appointed time. On this visit, the head doctor from Australia examined me in addition to the doctor from South Africa. The head doctor made the diagnosis that I had a urinary tract infection. I was given a shunt so that I could receive an IV on each visit to the ship hospital. We had a lot of time to take in the view from our balcony. There was a gift shop near the ship, so Janice and I did leave the ship and visit the gift shop. I went to the ship hospital every 8 hours until I no longer had a temperature and my white blood cell count was right. When Janice and I visited the ship hospital on Tuesday morning, September the 13th, the medical people gave me my release. I wanted to get a picture with the doctor and nurse that had given me such good care. Overnight, we had sailed from Akureyri to Isafjordur, Iceland, and since I'd been cleared to do as I pleased, Janice and I wanted to go ashore in Isafjordur. It was one of our favorite stops of the entire cruise. This was a port where we had to use the ship's tenders, but this time the weather could not have been better. It is amazing how efficient the tenders are at getting people off and on the ship. There was a constant stream of tenders coming and going all day long. We could look across the bay to the town of Isafjordur, where we would soon be going. Photographers from the Caribbean Princess took our picture as we stepped off the ship. We took a selfie on the way over on the tender. After we docked at Isafjordur, we looked back at the tender that had brought us from the ship. Since Janice and I were going into Isafjordur on our own, I asked a representative from Princess to help us get oriented with the map we had, but he wasn't much help. He just said, "The business area is that way." We walked only a block when we came across this beautiful sight of sailboats on glass smooth water. I love this view. A gentleman offered to take our picture, so we took him up on it. The flowers were colorful and beautiful. We loved the view looking back across the glass smooth bay. I took Janice's picture. And she took mine. We could see an area that looked like it would be of interest to tourists up ahead, so we continued walking. First, we visited a small park that had an arch made of whale bones. Of course, we had to get our picture made here. Then we walked back toward the town center where we saw the Culture House. The Culture House was built in 1925 and served as a hospital until 1929. In 2003, the house was opened as the Culture House. What is a Culture House, you ask? My research indicates it has a library, art collection, a photo collection, some archives, and provides internet access. It happened to be closed the day we were there. Next to the Culture House was the Fisherman's Monument. It commemorates those mariners who drowned at sea. As we walked toward the town center, we came across an old cemetery behind a local church. We couldn't read anything on the markers, so we moved on. Then we found a coffee shop that offered hot chocolate and free Wi-Fi. We couldn't resist that. This was a very enjoyable stop. Janice looked in some of the store windows before we started working our way back to the dock. Soon we were back at the dock and ready to board our tender for the Caribbean Princess. Back on the Caribbean Princess, we went up on top and took in the view from there before our ship departed for Reykjavik.